Morning Sri Lanka. You're still with me, Anupama, as I always tell you when you come into the show. If you missed out all the segments that we had before the commercial break, don't worry about it. Go on YouTube and check us out, because we were talking about so many interesting things. Just after the latter commercial break, we were talking to Mrs. Indra Jayasekara and Dr. Samantha Jayasekara, who are right here with us still, and I have a few more questions to ask them. So, let's talk about the food culture of Sri Lanka. So far, how many people are very keenly interested in getting into cooking and that industry in Sri Lanka? What kind of trends do you see right now comparatively to the early 80s or something, 40 years ago maybe? How has the trend changed? Are people more interested in getting into this industry, or are people much more laid back, and are women still involved in cooking in their own kitchens? What do you see as differences?
Well, there are marked differences from the time I have left Hong Kong and Sri Lanka and gone, come back. For instance, there's been a lot of talk about coconut and so on. Now I see that everybody's into coconut. Before, everybody shunned it. Yes, they were frightened.
Why were they frightened?
Well, they were sort of made to understand different things, that like cholesterol, high cholesterol and so on. But now it is sort of like considered to be one of the best things in the world. Coconut, you know, everybody says, proudly displays coconut. And that's one thing. And then the other thing is now like making hoppers. You know, it used to be the traditional way is now gone. Now it's a modern trend. Yes, I find that a lot of the people who do this as a commercial business seems to get this prepared batter. Yes, the batter is already prepared, and then they start making the hoppers. I must say it's still very delicious, but it used to be like, you know, people used to sort of pound the rice and then make it from scratch. Yes, now that trend is gone to a certain extent. I suppose in the villages they still carry on doing it.
So basically what you're saying is there's a lot of influence from technology and modern equipment.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes, well, it has to change. Because people also like to have time for themselves.
Of course, yes.
So without home help, some people work, and then of course you have to find ways and means of making some dish that you like, to keep the authenticity as well, and do it so that you can enjoy the meal. Then also, like the spices were always sort of made at home. But now you buy a packet of this and a packet of that, but still it's fine. There's nothing wrong in it. But I find that looking back over the years, the taste was so much better.
You know, made home, at home.
Yes, you know, grinding the chilies. And I remember when I was a very little girl, we had somebody to cook for us, and they used to grind all these things on one of these grinding stones. And then
you can hardly find grinding stones these days, let alone people who cook.
That's right. It's not, if you ask them what a grinding stone is, they wouldn't even know.
Stone,
so like that, you know, there's been sort of like a lot of changes. But basically also you get a lot of food outlets, you know, so people tend to buy certain things, like string hoppers for instance. It's a lovely dish, but it's a bit sort of tedious to make, especially if you're working the whole day. So things like that, the trend has changed considerably. And when like say for instance when you know make certain dishes like string hoppers, pittu and so on, roti, people, that used to be a breakfast dish, but now it's
dinner.
So those things have changed considerably. But still, you know, the main authenticity remains
Yes.
in that sense.
And Sri
Yeah.
Lankan food has a very unique flavor to it anyway.
Yes.
Like wherever you go, you find
Yes.
something
It's a-
unique.
And I also find that with young people, they want to take their food out. You know,
Yes.
they want to share their knowledge with other people
Yes.
and go overseas. Lots of young chefs we've met at hotels
All right.
have been talking about, you know, wanting to cook for lots
Nice.
of nationalities and take their speciality out. And in the UK, a lot of chefs there are very interested in Sri Lankan food, like Rick Stein.
Wow.
Yeah, he's done a very good series on Southeast Asian cookery, and there are a number of chefs who've developed an interest.
Nice. That's
So
very
I
interesting.
think it's changing,
For the better.
yeah, for the better. Yeah.
But yeah, like I mentioned to you before, there's still a huge fan base for Sri Lankan food. I mean, wherever you go, I find that even, for example, even if you go for a 5-star hotel, if they have a certain promotions, so they have a Sri Lankan night, you see half of the crowd is actually Sri Lankan. So I'm
Yes.
like, you can make them at home, but you're still here because your
Yes.
people actually like their own food.
And
which is the
also
thing.
overseas, in some countries like Hong Kong, there weren't many Sri Lankan restaurants. I think there was one in the time that we were there. And in London you do get them, but they're all in pockets all over the place.
Right, okay.
So
Talking about Sri Lankan restaurants, have you been around Colombo and the Sri Lankan food restaurants?
Yes.
Maybe out of Colombo even. What do you think about the outlets that we see these days? The Sri Lankan food outlets?
Well, basically, it's mostly catering for a variety of people. So, like when it comes to some vegetarian dishes and so on, you get the basic types in Colombo
Okay.
area, but when you go like outside, you know, maybe Kandy, Kandalama, you get the traditional, you know, like the lotus root cooked and
Yes,
the
that's very nice.
coconut
That's very nice.
palm, you know,
Yeah.
the village style. It's so nice.
It is,
you know?
it's indeed.
Yes.
And people enjoy that. Actually, when they get out of Colombo, they tend to go
Exactly.
into those small
Yeah.
villages out there and let's have some village food.
Yes.
You know, it's still regional in most of the places in the country, I think.
That's
mostly
right.
Food, like you said.
Yes.
But do you enjoy you said that you cook a variety of food, Sri Lankan, Thai, so many other things.
Yeah.
What is the hardest to cook?
Well, they're basically sort of spice based.
Okay.
Most of them are.
What takes more time, Mrs. Joshua?
Yes, I think Sri Lankan
Lankan
food,
takes time.
yes. But now you see, because you can get the coconut milk and so on, which you don't have to start from scratch.
Yes.
It does help, you see, but because like, say for instance, Indonesian, you do get the same sort of spices, but it's not as laborious in the sense, you know, there are certain dishes,
Okay.
I should not say that, but but mostly some of our traditional dishes can
Take a
take
long
some
time.
time to cook, but it is really very worthwhile doing it.
I
Like
know.
say for instance the fish ambutian,
Yes.
or
Oh.
you know,
My favorites.
yeah, so
I'm getting hungry right now. All right,
and the
so
hoppers, you know,
hoppers. Who doesn't like
because
hoppers?
you have
We
to
like
make one at a time, you know,
Yes.
so it does take some time, but it's still very nice.
Unless if somebody creates some hopper machine or something. Hoppers.
Sure.
All right, we have a book that Mrs. Indra Jayasekara had put together, which is called A Taste of Sri Lanka. How many books like this have you comprised, have you put together?
I've done about 3.
Okay.
Yes, and I've contributed to a lot of other books as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is very interesting because it has beautiful photography.
Yes.
that was
was it-
courtesy of Mr. Benno Gross.
Yes.
Okay, so these are the original Sri Lankan spices
Yes.
that you use. Ooh, it's so nice. And then I have, okay, I'm going to hold it up so that the audience can see it. There you go. Looks good. Look at coconut.